Hey Rebels! Oh wow, that's bright. That is some bright lights. How we doing tonight? Let's talk about boundaries. All right, you're gonna see, screen's gonna go black for a second. I'm gonna try to fix something. Did that make it better? Not really. Okay. Well, you're gonna have to deal with me looking kind of ghostly tonight. I don't know why that's happening, but it is. Hey Crystal, glad that you're here. Okay, while I'm trying to adjust myself and not look as if I'm a ghost, let's talk a little bit about boundaries. Is that a little bit better? There we go, that's better. Hey Anne, glad that you're here. Hey Amanda, so nice to see you. Okay, I want to talk about boundaries and I want to talk about undoing what you've been taught. All right. And I mean this in actually two different ways. What you've been taught by society and what you were taught by example as you were being raised as a child by your parents. Probably well-intended, probably grab some vows in there that are making it hard for you to set boundaries. So I want you to understand both concepts. So first, let's talk about, in more of a society way, what you've been taught about boundaries and what's wrong with that. So we really get taught, and depending on your gender in a slightly different way, we really get taught that our own feelings are less important than gaining the approval of other people. That's something that our culture hits on a little too much, all right? We live in a time now where our lives are easier than, like, think about your great grandparents for a minute and what their lives looked like and how much struggle was involved in their life and how much time and energy and space they had to give to their own feelings and their own happiness. And then look at what you have for an opportunity. You might not be doing it, but look at what you have for an opportunity. You can see a really vast difference. There's like light years of like a leap that we've done in this direction. And we haven't fully caught up to teaching people about this. So just to differentiate gender-wise a little bit for you, women are taught that they need to always be pleasing other people and that them standing up and having an emotion and naming that emotion is not good. It's like unladylike or it's selfish. Women are also taught, especially starting at young girls, that to be, hey Nicole, that to be a woman and a good woman and a good mother and a good wife and a good whatever, they have to fit into the martyr role, which would be sacrificing your own needs for everybody else's. We're taught that from a very, very young age. One of the things I talk about in Life Changers, so if you're a life changer, you'll hear about this, is growing up, you were raised probably like me on Disney movies with Disney princesses. And if you look at them, the mothers are, hey Aspen, are basically non-existent in those tales. The women who have any power in any Disney fairy tale movie are evil. All right, that's a tangent and a video for a whole other day. I love talking about that. I could talk about that for 5 hours. If you guys are interested in hearing more about that and a cultural backlash from that, let me know. I'll make another video about that. But really understanding that we're taught to be martyring our own needs all the time. For men, they're taught that there's a few emotions they're allowed to have. They're not allowed to have all of them though. You can have anger and you can have a few of them, but you can't have any sensitive emotions like sadness or even crying because you're so happy. You have to have that in check and be tough, and that your value is in providing. So sacrificing your own happiness as long as you're providing for your family is what the male gender is taught. So in both areas there's sacrifice, and in both areas there's this weird importance on not being an emotional person. Doesn't help when it comes to boundary setting, because what boundary setting is protecting your energy and protecting yourself, making sure that you're feeling emotionally well all the time. That's your intuition's job, right? To lead you to where you want to go so that you can feel the feelings you want to feel and feel fulfilled. And if we're not able to do boundaries, we're not able to do that. So you really have to get to the place where you can just like take that society BS piece and like throw it away, like later, I don't need that. All right. Now let's look at the piece that weighs even more heavily on you. And if you're a parent, especially if you're a parent of younger kids, this might hit you a little bit in the feels. Hey, Kate, glad that you're here. But I want you to take it in and I want you to listen because it's really, really super important. I want you to first apply it to yourself. And then if you'd like to apply it to your own parenting, you may do that. But take it in for yourself first, okay? As you're growing up, as a child, one of the things that kids really, really need is they need boundaries. Okay, so they need to understand what kind of behavior is acceptable and what kind of behavior isn't acceptable. Kids need that. Kids thrive in environments where there are healthy boundaries, meaning they understand what they have to do. There is a fair punishment and a fair or a fair consequence, maybe is a better word than punishment, and a fair reward for meeting the behavior, for being in those boundary lines. So kids really, really need that. If you want to like look up someone who talks amazingly about that, Super Nanny, Jo Frost is her name, has some amazing books. I've read a few of them. She does a lot of awesome talks on this. So definitely look that up if you're interested in learning more about that. But kids really thrive having that. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be strict. It just means that you want to be consistent, have clear boundaries, and also be able to express to your children an emotional reason why you're having boundaries, okay? So think for a minute about yourself growing up and think about, especially when you were around the age of 6, this is when we write most all of our vows, and think about how your parents were with boundaries with you. What kind of boundaries did you have? Susan said, Jo knows what's up. Yeah, she totally does, right? Very fast. So think about that. What kind of boundaries did you have? Were your boundaries clear? Were your parents really clear and super fair about boundaries? Were there certain things that you knew would piss your mother off and you'd be in trouble if you did? But there were other things you knew that if you did these things, your mother would be like, oh, let me reward you for that behavior. Was that a part of your life? And how was it a part of your life? Were your parents a united front with boundaries so they were clear for you? Were they on separate pages and you had to adhere to like all these really different sets of boundaries when you were with your parents? Maybe one enforced them and one did them. Was that going on in your life? Did your parents not have any boundaries? It was a free-for-all. You just walked around like a crazy person doing whatever you wanted all the time. That's gonna play a part too. Were your parents strict, very, very strict, and never bothering to explain to you why they had certain boundaries? Were they like, this is the boundary and you're gonna follow it, I don't care how you feel about it? Or did they explain it to you? Did they take time to adjust them based on what your needs were? Did they make them fair and age appropriate for you? Looking at that will give you a clear picture on what you took in and what you decided was true about you, not for behavior, that's there too, but for boundary setting when you became an adult. You're gonna watch your parents, mainly your same-sex parents. So if you're a girl, your mom. If you're a boy, your dad. And you're gonna watch, and if you didn't have one of them in your life, you're gonna either go to the other gender and use that one, or you're going to find a woman that's close to you in your family. It doesn't mean 16 or over, okay? That you're going to emulate that because you're going to look for an example. That's what kids do. That's how they learn, okay? So you're saying, how do they do this? And you go, okay, I'm going to emulate how this person sets boundaries. And so if you're a kid and you got that parent right there and this is how they set boundaries with you, then that's what you're going to copy when you go out into the world as an adult, okay? So if your parents were super, super strict and there was all these boundaries and no explanation why, you're gonna do one of two things. One of two things. Because kids take everything, especially age 6, everything is black, white. Okay, there's no gray area. It's right, wrong, black and white, boop-a-boop for a 6-year-old. Okay, so if you think about that and you think your parents had super strict boundaries, you either, and didn't explain them and just went with them, you either copy that or do the exact opposite of that when it comes to setting boundaries for yourself. Now, how you parent, you may have decided something different. You may be doing the same thing. That's different for everybody. But you're going to look and go, this was the kind of boundaries that my parents set. This was the way that they did it. This was how they behaved in it. And now I'm going to copy exactly that, or I'm going to do the exact opposite of that. People love to try to argue with me here like there's gray area. Oh, but this, but that. There isn't. Okay, you can try. If you want to, go ahead. I would happily argue it with you. I want you to see that there isn't, not because I want to be right, but because I want you to see that it's a simple concept so you can see what you have copied, all right, or have vowed to do the opposite of. Exactly like or exact opposite of is how you're operating, and it's from your point of view at 6. So if you notice your mom setting boundaries with you, and she was super, let's take an opposite example. She was super flexible. There was no boundaries. It was always do whatever you want. It was always, oh my gosh, here's what you need, and always handing it to you. As you grow up, if you vow to do the same when it comes to relationships with anybody, romantic, friendships, work relationships, employee, boss, any of those, neighbor, whatever, when it comes to those, you're going to have a lot of trouble setting healthy boundaries if you're copying mom. So you're going to just people please. You're going to give people, whenever they show an emotion, you're just going to fold and give them what they want, okay? If you had a mother that was, like I said, let's go to the other end, super strict, like crazy strict about everything and no explanation for why, and you decide to emulate that behavior, you're going to be really closed off to people. You're going to actually try to connect with them by constantly causing drama because you don't know any other way. Makes sense? So what I want you to do is I want you to look back and I want you to say, how did my parents parent me with boundaries? What's there? And did I do the exact same or the exact opposite? Then look at, what did you view for your parents, how they dealt with other people? Did you see your mom or your dad as like a total pushover? And like whenever somebody wanted anything, they would just do it? They put up with people being jerks to them? Did you see your mom crying all the time because people were mean to her? Did you see your mom being mean to other people? Did you see your mom being too vocal? Depending on how you felt about that behavior, whether you felt safe next to it or unsafe, is going to determine what you vowed. So sometimes people are like, oh my God, so I'm really just copying my parents all the time or doing the exact opposite of them? For a lot of things, yes. And for boundaries, absolutely. So if you can look at that and you can just take a little time to journal about what it was like for you when it comes to boundaries as a kid, that is going to change the game, because once you see that, you can release it. You can stop emulating another person and you can start doing what's right for you. Having your emotional state protected, having your emotional state supported is an incredibly, incredibly valuable thing to be able to do for yourself. And if you're unable to do that, you're going to walk around not feeling great about yourself all the time. You're going to be in those emotional states because what's happening is you're not feeling good. You're not feeling safe about vocalizing how you feel, about drawing a line in the sand or cutting somebody out or bringing somebody in closer or pushing somebody down through the boundaries a little bit more. So you want to look at the why. Most people who struggle, hey Laura, most people who struggle to put up a boundary, if you're struggling to do that, like you just let people walk all over you, you do everything for everyone else and they're not doing anything for you, if that's what's going on for you, not only are you either exactly copying or doing the exact opposite of your parents, mainly your mom if you're a woman or your dad if you're a boy, man, woman, boy. That was a weird slip. But you're also emulating how you saw what they did. You're also emulating what you perceive to be self-worth. All right. So all of this plays a part. So if you don't feel like you're worth being treated better, you won't do it. And that can be sneaky. That can hide. You can be afraid that if you vocalize how you feel, people will leave. They'll be like, peace out. I don't want to be your friend anymore. I'm out because you just told me one of your feelings. If that's your belief, that's going to be how you operate. It's going to be really hard to set boundaries. Now, I don't know about you, but I really like being around people who have good, strong boundaries, who are not afraid to vocalize them and who are not afraid to tell me if I put my toes on one. I like that. I would much rather have somebody who will tell me than somebody who won't. All right. And one of the things that I try very hard to do even when it comes to work is to have healthy boundaries and to express them. And one of the things people say to me all the time is, I feel comfortable messaging you and asking you for help because I know you'll tell me if, you know what, we need to do a session. And so I try to do that for people so they feel comfortable asking instead of being afraid to ask in the first place. So you can actually make it so you can help people more. People will share with you more if you confidently put those boundaries up. Maybe it doesn't feel super confident inside, but if you can do that outwardly, it's going to make a huge difference. If you're not putting boundaries up and you're allowing behavior that's hurting you, you are telling people how to treat you. You're saying, this is fine, a fine way to treat me. Go ahead and keep doing that. Okay. So if that's what's going on, that's what you've created. So you really want to look at that. You want to look at, what am I allowing? What's my reaction when someone says, oh, that hurt my feelings? Do I stop for a second and do I work on that and recognize that? What's my reaction when my feelings get hurt? Do I say, hey, that hurt my feelings, knock that shit off, right? Or do I shut down? Do I abandon ship without saying anything? Do I cause a fight to see what's going to happen and poke at somebody? Do I just keep my mouth shut and take it? What do I do? And what can I do to protect myself better? That's the best thing to do, is to really look at how you can speak your truth better to people. Remember, as empaths, the reason that you want to have boundaries is so that you can show up for the people you're here to serve better. All right. If you are constantly giving all your energy to everybody and you're just willy-nilly, whoever wants it, you're going to have less to give and at a lesser quality to the people who are really wanting to work for it, really wanting to earn it, not work for it, but really earn it in the way that they give it back. Right? People, especially if you're a healer of some kind, if you're empathic and you want to help people, if you're not protecting your energy, you're going to do a crap job at helping those people who really want your help. All right. So you have to protect it for that. A lot of times people see boundaries as like a way to keep people out. Those are barriers. We're going to talk about that next week in the challenge. Boundaries are to protect what's inside, right? And to say, this is mine, and I'm protecting it. So if you think about it that way, I think it can help you make a shift. Let's talk real quick about the boundaries versus barriers challenge. We're doing it here in this group only in Rebels next week. Monday through Friday, in the group every day, a post will post about the boundaries and barriers challenge. In the event, there's a link that you can click on if you'd like to have that work emailed to you also. So if you want to have it so you can keep it, if it's like easier for you to find and see, if you'd like that done, you can click that link and it will put your email onto the list, and I will make sure that gets out to you each day of the challenge. You can just post right in here in the group if you want for the challenge. You don't have to post outside of it. But I do strongly encourage you to do it, because we're going to walk through each step of what to do with boundaries and how to understand boundaries and barriers and how to see how barriers are hurting you and boundaries are helping you. Understanding the difference, understanding what you're protecting. We have a whole day about feelings. All right. And I'm going to come in next Thursday, and all the stuff from the challenge, I'm going to go over with you in the live video for the class. So I very much want to help you with that. I know we had a question come in from Paula, who I don't think was able to be here. I think she's at a networking event. Go girl. So I want to answer that. But if you have any other questions tonight about boundaries, about barriers, about anything that you want me to answer while I'm here live, I would happily do that. Let me pull up the question that came in earlier and check to see if there are any others. But really, really take a look, do that journaling work. And I would love it if you posted in the group what you found. Like, this is what I experienced for boundaries from my parents. This is what I noticed with how my parents set boundaries. And this is what I noticed I'm doing exactly like them, and what I'm doing exactly opposite. And this is what I feel like would be more authentic to me. If you can look at that, it's going to be much easier. You're going to feel much less like you're fighting against yourself and much more like you're supporting yourself. Okay, so the question that came in, from Paula was, I need help with boundaries and my family. My mom and sister are very codependent on each other and it wreaks havoc on me and my boys. They try to use my boys as pawns. This is a twisted tale. I'm going to try to make it, but this is what I need help with. Backstory, my mother's sister died and she uses the story with me and my sister and has totally crossed the line and done something horrible to me. It sucks. Okay, so when it comes to boundaries and when it comes to family, this can be very extra tough when it's people like your mom and your sister. So the very first thing that you want to do with this, Paula, is that you want to understand where your mom and your sister fall in your levels. So we're going over the levels in the challenge next week, but you can also hop on to Connect with the Angels and look at the video I did last night in there where I talk about what the levels are. So you can do that if you don't already know them. But you want to see, where do these people go in the levels? That's the first information you want to know. Because if somebody is a level 4 or a level 5, you're not going to spend a lot of time explaining to them and drawing boundary lines in the sand, because those are people that you only see when you have to see them. So take a little time to figure out where they are first and foremost. If they're a 4 or a 5, then we'll talk about that separate. I have a feeling they're not, but maybe they need to be if they're not. If they're not consistently worried about how you're feeling, they might need to get pushed down to there. So understanding where they go, step 1. When you have a boundary problem with anybody, step 1, okay? Step 2 would be creating a plan and an intention, all right? So your plan is, do I need to bring this up or do I need to let this go? Now that's a hard question, because a lot of the times I want to bring it up and the answer that my intuition and my angels give me is like, let it go, sister. And I'm like, So it depends. Can you move forward? Is this something that needs to get brought back up? Is there a possible solution here? If there is, boom, then you're going to want to formulate a plan to bring it up. If it's not, no, bringing this up is only going to make things worse. This is not going to go anywhere that I want it to go. There's no outcome from doing that I want. Then you're going to work on letting it go. So that would be the next thing that you need to do. Third step is moving forward. What can you do differently to not allow your boundary lines to be so crossed in the future? So sometimes that's putting them in level 4 or 5, like we said, right? Like not being around them as much, not sharing as much with them, which stinks when it's people super close to you. I get it. I have those kinds of people in those levels too. But sometimes that's necessary to protect your own energy. You also have to remember that if somebody isn't treating you well and you're allowing that and you're allowing them to be near you all the time, you're enabling that behavior in them. And so that's not supportive to them either. So if your empathy is like strangling you to push somebody back, you're not serving them if you're allowing them to be around you and to hurt you. That's not helping anybody. Make sense? The next thing you want to do is go, what can I do? So speaking up when somebody hurts your feelings or brings up a topic that you don't want to talk about is huge. And I know it can be uncomfortable, but I can promise you that after you do it a few times, you'll be like, oh, that was really not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Okay. So if someone starts talking about a subject that you do not want to talk about, someone goes a place that you do not want to go, just politely redirect, okay? Politely say, can we talk about something else that's not feeling super good to me? And move on, all right? You don't have to make a drama out of it. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. Move on by, okay? I usually try to distract. Here, let's talk about this instead. I try that once. If it doesn't work, then I address it. You know what? I'm not feeling super cozy and comfy talking about this right now. Would you mind if we talked about something else? I would so appreciate it. I really appreciate you allowing me to feel safe enough to vocalize that to you. And then someone's like, oh, yes, of course, because you just made them feel good, right? So you want to be able to say things like that. So you want to go in knowing, how do I want to feel when I'm around these people? What's my intention? I want to feel powerful. I want to feel like I'm kind, and I want to feel happy. And if someone's bringing up something to me or saying something to me that is not making me feel those ways, I'm going to do something to exit, okay? I'm going to try to exit the conversation and change the subject. If that's not going to work, girlfriend's out, okay? I'm going to exit because I need to protect that. And if someone won't respect it, girlfriends out, and you don't have to do it meanly, okay? So really knowing what your intentions are and then working on that. Try a distraction, then address it, then give a warning. You know what? I'm going to have to leave if we keep talking about this because it's really not making me feel good, and I need you to respect that. And if they still don't, you know what? I can see that you need to talk about this. I hope that you find someone else to talk about it with. I hope you understand that I can't be here. And if I am going to be here, I need you to respect how I'm feeling and only bring up things that are okay with me, and then get your ass out of there. Okay. It's hard. I'm not saying that boundaries are easy, but once you start doing it, it will change everything. So that was a great question, Paula. I hope that helps. And I think as you go through the challenge next week, you'll really be able to see how to apply that further. I'll go into that a little bit further so you understand that process. Speak up when you feel uncomfortable. If it's a level 1 or a level 2, they know your tricks probably, okay? My level 1 people, when I'm a hardcore avoider of topics I don't want to talk about. Like, I'm pro at it. Okay, like an expert. Like, I could teach a class on how to avoid shit you don't want to talk about. Probably not the most constructive, but I could totally do that. They know when I'm doing it. They call me out on it, but they also allow it. Like, when you feel okay to talk about that, let's go. Or, hey, dummy, let's talk about that. Clearly having an issue, all right? Whatever it is, those people are going to hold that for you. So if you're with people who aren't doing that for you and aren't understanding that about you, you're not communicating with your 1s and 2s. Somebody's in a spot they're not supposed to be in. So make sure you're paying attention to that. That should set off warning bells for you, okay? So put people in their levels. It's just for you. You can burn that shit afterwards. No one needs to see it. It's just so you know, okay? And know people move. If someone's actions are constantly not helping you feel good, and they're not like, you know, they're not like watching out for like how you're feeling, there's no concern about that from them, note it. Mental note it. There's something going on if that's it. So stick them in level 3 to figure out what the heck's going on. Have a conversation, see what's going on, but vocalize. Women specifically have been taught not to vocalize their feelings. It's like, swallow it down, pretend everything's fine, and put on a smile. No more. We're done with that, right? This is not 1950. We don't have to pretend that everything's fine all the time. Vocalize it. You don't have to be dramatic about it. You don't have to cause a scene about it. You don't have to hurt somebody back if they're hurting you, but you can vocalize. Listen, people look like chumps, like absolute effing chumps. If you say to them, what you're saying or the tone of voice you're using or the subject you're talking about is making me feel badly, and then they continue to do it, they look like a chump. I promise you. I promise. Try it. You don't look like a chump. Keep yourself calm. They do. So feel like empowering yourself, even if you're scared, right? Do it scared, people. Even if you're scared, vocalize that. Do it gently. Take a baby step. Try one time. Give someone a heads up. Hey, this is a subject that's going to be off the table today because I just don't have it in me to talk about it. Boom. You got it. No problem. All right. I know I would respect that for someone. I bet you would respect that for someone. So you have to allow other people the opportunity to respect it for you too. Okay. All right. Go set those boundaries. Don't put up barriers. Take a look at what you took in from the way that your parents parented you with boundaries. Take a look at what you observed in them. And remember, society's teaching you not to do this. Tell society to be quiet and set your own rules. All right? Have a great night, guys. Bye.